So we're going to finish off these last three properties in this last video here. So this one is going to focus on the identities. We have an additive and a multiplicative identity. So when we talk about an identity, when you talk about someone's identity, it kind of sounds like that word identical. Identical. That's a botch spelling probably, but okay. So identical means same, right? If someone is identical, if you have an identical twin, that means they look just like. Identical means same. So when we're talking about these identity properties, we want the same number back. We want the same number we started with. So if I'm looking at the additive identity, what number can I add to any number? X plus what number can I add to any number and still get X back? What number can I add to 5 and still get the identical thing or the same thing back? Well, and that's kind of a little bit of an obvious answer, but 0. If I add 0 to X, I still get X. If I add 0 to 5, I still end up with 5. So the additive identity is 0 because anything plus 0 equals that anything. Right? That's what we mean when we say that X, any number plus 0, is always going to equal that X that we have back. So that's the additive identity. The additive identity is 0. Whereas the multiplicative identity is a little bit different. The multiplicative identity is what number can I multiply? So what number can I multiply 3 by and still get 3 back? That would be 1. 3 times 1 gets me 3. Negative 2 times 1 gets me the identical thing back that I started with. And that's because, again, like we talked about, anything multiplied by 1 is that same anything. Right? X times 1 is always going to give me X. Any number times 1 is always going to give me that number back that I started with. And last but not least, the 0 property of multiplication, which is a property that you're all familiar with because you've been doing it. It's probably one of the easiest ones. And that just says that any number multiplied by 0 will always be 0. So any number times 0 gives me 0. Negative 500 and whatever times 0 gives me 0. So those are your properties. The most important 3 being the distributive, commutative, and associative. I forgot one thing. The multiplicative identity, I just want to add a little piece in there. Swoop, number 7, that multiplicative identity. This is the property we use when finding common denominators. Just a little side bubble for you there. Move those guys over. All right, there we go. Yeah, the multiplicative identity is what we use when we're finding common denominators because you're multiplying by the same thing on the top and the bottom. And if I multiply something by 5 over 5, 5 over 5 is really just 1.